What's going on, everybody? It's your man Louie T here with another installment of the Louie T Network podcast, late night Louie edition, fresh off of my vacation. Granny's 89th birthday party was a success. Gotta love being around family, even though my family is crazy. um, so I come back, of course, with a few stories. Um, So I'll get to those very quickly. But Hard Knocks episode number 3 was tonight. So we're going to talk about that. Matthew Judon was traded while I was gone. He's now a member of the Atlanta Falcons. And it's interesting because I plan to talk about that tonight. And that was a part of the Hard Knocks episode. So it kind of ties in together. So it's kind of a perfect segue. But off the heels of Judon landing in Atlanta, I want to know, are the Atlanta Falcons a Super Bowl contending team? Does this deal for Matthew Judon move the needle for you at all? We'll talk about the Falcons. They're an interesting team this season. All of that and more here on the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 441st installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Of course, I'm your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Really appreciate everybody kicking it with the kid on this late night Louie edition as we inch ever so close to the start of the NFL regular season. So this upcoming Saturday will feature a college football game. So this is week 0 in college football for those of you who aren't college football fans. They call this week coming up week 0. And this weekend will mark the first weekend of the college football season. And the last weekend, we will be without some sort of football. Now, for me, I usually earmark that with the Hall of Fame game. You know, I'm aware that none of the football that we've watched over the last 2 weeks counts. Fully aware. However, it's still ball. It's still something to occupy the mind. It's still something that is pleasing to my eyeballs. And so I use the Hall of Fame game as my mark, so to speak, for the dry spell being over with. But technically speaking, this upcoming weekend is the first weekend that we will have some sort of football in terms of football that actually counts from here on out until February. So we made it. I said that when we got to the Hall of Fame game, but I really mean it this time. We made it. So pat yourself on the back. But let's talk about my trip real quick. Went to the U.S. Virgin Islands, a.k.a. The Rock, to see my family members. We were celebrating Granny's 89th birthday party. Her birthday was on the 13th, so we had her party over the weekend, and it was a massive success. The rain tried to get in the way, and it still was to no avail. We were still out there having a blast and a good time, and so much so, of course, your man Louie T lost his wallet. You have got to be an ass of all asses to lose your wallet on vacation. And, it's one thing if you drove to Charlotte from Virginia and you lost your wallet. Okay, it sucks. You don't have your wallet, yada, yada, yada. But you can drive home, right? I'm over water. I need to fly. I need my identification to get back home. So I can't tell you what happened to it either. Like, that's the part where I struggle because I'm very anal and specific about keeping up with my belongings, especially my wallet. So let me go back in the story a bit. So my wife makes fun of me. So I've got the old man wallet. You've all seen it. The wallet that looks like it's 5 years past its prime. It's thick. It's got stuff bulging out of it. It needs to be replaced, but you just why? Like men don't think about things like that. It's it's funny because men don't think about I need new underwear a lot of times. I need more socks. Like these aren't things that we think about, but you just wear the same ones over and over and over and over again until somebody buys us some, right? So with a wallet, it's the same thing. You just keep the wallet until somebody gets you a wallet for Father's Day or for your birthday or some, random occurrence where somebody decides, you know what? I'm tired of looking at that piece of garbage wallet that he has. Let me get him a new one. So my wife did that thing that people do when they're tired of seeing something that's an eyesore for them. She bought me a new wallet for Father's Day. So I get the wallet and um, it's one of these thin, you know, six, like I'm trying to think of a good way, um, like 6 card holder wallets. So you can't have a bunch of cards in it. And that's the purpose of it is to not have your whole, life in your wallet. I always joke with my mom. My mom walks around with her entire life in her purse, and a lot of women do walk around with their entire life in their purse, which is why it's so damn heavy. But and look, I've cleaned out my wallet 3 times over the last year, and it's still I have stuff that why are you walking around with that, bro? Why? Like, why do you have an AutoZone card in your wallet? You don't go, first of all, you don't go to AutoZone ever. Why are you walking around with an AutoZone rewards card? Because you never know when you're gonna go to AutoZone, right? Like, that's the kind of bullshit I have going on in my wallet, right? I've got a Dick's Sporting Goods card from like 12 years ago that I may have used once. That's the kind of shit that's in my wallet. And instead of me throwing it away, I convince myself, hey, you never know when you're gonna go to Dick's, right? Like that's that progressive commercial shit that that would probably make for a really good commercial. Like, why do you have a Kroger card in your wallet when you can just put your phone number in, guy? What are you doing? Take that stuff out of your wallet, man. So anyway, my wife was making fun of me. She bought me the slim wallet, and I she didn't think I liked it initially when she bought it for me, which I did. I didn't have any issues with it. It was just I'm so accustomed to my big bulky wallet because I know where it is at all times. Like you can't put that wallet in your pocket, my original wallet in my pocket and not know that it's in your pocket. Like you're gonna see it, you're gonna feel it. The wallet she bought me, it's so obscure, which was the point, right? Like if we're going somewhere, a nice casual restaurant, you don't want this big bulky wallet, you know, protruding out of your pants. Pause. So I started using the wallet and it was very convenient, but something happened 2 weeks ago that scared the bejesus out of me. I was walking into um I was walking into the store, Wegmans, and I had my cell phone in the same pocket as my wallet. And I pulled my cell phone out and my wallet fell out too. And I didn't even know. It was so small, it's so slim. I didn't even know it fell out. I just so happened to forget my Wegmans, because if you know Wegmans, specifically in the area that I live in, you have to pay for your bags. So I have Wegmans bags that I bought, because it's a good deal, like 99 cents for a bag that you can reuse over and over again, instead of paying 10 cents for a bag every time, or 5 cents or whatever it is, every time you go in there for paper bags. It's stupid, right? Just give me the 99-cent bag and I'll use it a million times. So I have like 4 or 5 of those. So I doubled back to get my bag, and I just so happened to look down, and there's my wallet on the ground, and I had no idea. So that scared the shit out of me. So I told my wife, like, I don't know if I'm a big fan of this wallet. Like, I love the convenience of it, but unless I have a pocket with a zipper, this thing scares me, because it could just fall out of my pocket at any point and I won't even know. So fast forward to the trip. We go to the trip, and um I had 2 cards that I had designated for the trip that I was going to use. No other cards, and then my ID. So I put all 3 of those in the wallet that she bought me, and that was it. So we were at the hotel bar, kicking it, having a good time, chilling. I paid for my stuff. That's the last time I saw it. That was on the second night of the trip. So I don't know what happened after that. In my mind, this is what I've told myself. I put it in my pocket, and I had on some shorts, but the shorts have very hollow pockets. They're not deep, and it's easy for items to fall out of those particular pockets. So in my mind, this is what I've told myself to make me feel better. I put the wallet in my pocket. I was sitting down. It fell out of my pocket. I didn't know. There it is, right? You'd like to hope someone would find it, turn it in. I went to the front desk. I went to the back to the hotel restaurant. Nobody's seen it. Nobody's turned anything in. I froze the cards. Obviously, I don't have my ID now. And so I looked everywhere for it. I turned the hotel room upside down, and we kept a really clean hotel room. So it wasn't in there. My bags, it was crazy. So we were going back to the hotel bar the next night. And this was the night of the party. So we had just been out partying all day, seeing people we hadn't seen in years, and we had a great time. And I got a nice buzz going because I had drinks at the party, and I'm going to have more drinks tonight. So I'm like, yeah, we finna turn up. And my uncle's leaving, and he's like, you coming? I'm like, yeah, I just got to get my wallet. So I reach in my backpack, which is where I keep my wallet. And the funny thing is, the day before, my uncle fussed at me because he's like, bro, I I kept putting my backpack in the trunk, and I always keep my wallet in my backpack. So he got upset because I kept asking him to pop the trunk. I had to keep going in the trunk every time we stopped somewhere and I needed my wallet. And he's like, yo, bro, just put the wallet in your pocket. I'm like, nah, not with these shorts on. I'm not doing it. And it's so ironic that the very next night, I go to look for my wallet in the backpack, and it's not there. So I'm thinking, because it's a very small wallet. So I'm like, yeah, it's in here. Because this has happened to me before, where I just stick my hand in my backpack and I'm just searching around, and eventually my hand will hit it and I'll just pull it out. This time I'm having some trouble. I got a lot of stuff because I'm on vacation. I got a lot of stuff in my backpack that's not normally there. So I'm like, okay, let me just start taking stuff out. So I start taking the stuff out, and I get to the bottom of the bag, and I'm like, I don't see it. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just turn it upside down. So I dump the whole bag out. Nothing. Okay, fine. I put everything back. No panic, right? No panic. I've got other compartments in this book bag. Maybe I just put it in the wrong compartment, right? Yeah, that's probably what happened. So I open up the other compartment, take everything out, turn it upside down. Nothing. Okay, still no panic, right? Like, okay, it's gotta be in the shorts that I wore yesterday. Aha. No issues. I do this all the time. Don't clean out my pockets sometimes. Okay, no biggie. Let's go in the suitcase, get the shorts that I wore yesterday out, get the wallet out, and let's go party. Get to the shorts. I squeeze it. This is the easiest thing to do. You just squeeze the shorts, right? Because I ball everything up military style to make more fit in my bag. Learned that trick when I was working at the airport. Like, how can this green duffel bag weigh 720 pounds when we would be loading up these aircrafts? And it would be military bags. And these military duffel bags would weigh a ton. And you'd be like, what in the hell is in this thing? It's just clothes, bro. They just pack it so tightly that they get so much in there that it becomes this massive, compacted, ridiculous bag that weighs 8 million pounds. So I learned how to, pack my clothes to get more in there. And so I just squeezed it. And if it's in there, I'm going to feel it. And I felt nothing. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me. It's got to be in here, bro. So now I'm like, even though I already know the answer, I unfold the pants, I unroll them, and stick my hand in every pocket. I know it's not there because if I would have felt it when I squeezed it, right? So I unroll the pants, I stick my hand in every single pocket. Of course, it's not in there. Okay, maybe it fell out in the suitcase. So now I'm checking the suitcase. I take everything out. I put everything back in. Of course, it's not in there. Now the panic starts to set in. And I'm not a panic guy. So even when there's panic, it's really not panic. But it's just like this feeling of, oh shit, what did I just do? Right. Now I'm checking everywhere, under the bed, under the chair, on the table, in the desk. I haven't touched any of these places. It's not any of these places. I know this, but that doesn't stop you from checking anyway. Check the car, check the front desk, check with the hotel restaurant. Nobody's seen it. Nobody knows anything. My uncle's like, well, let me go check the car. I'm like, bro, I already checked the car. But of course, he thinks he can look better than me. So he checks. It's not there. He turned the car upside down. Um, comes back to the room. He looks I'm like, bro, it's not here. So I just go downstairs and I have a drink with them. And my mom, my sister, and my uncle were all down waiting for me at the hotel restaurant bar. And I just went down and but it killed the mood, right? It crushed any opportunity for us to have a good time because now everybody's worried about my situation. And I didn't want that, right? So my sister's like, how can you come down here at a time like this and have a drink? I'd be going bananas. I'd be losing my, you know what, because she doesn't curse. She's like, I'd be losing my mind. And I just looked at her calmly and my mom's like, he's just like his dad, and I'm like, what difference is that going to make? Right. And then my uncle said the same thing. Like, what is that going to do? It's not going to solve that. The wallet isn't going to magically appear. I'm just naturally a calm guy, so I'm like, instead of freaking out, now let's just figure out a plan of action to get me home. I'm more concerned about getting home to my family than I am the stuff that was in my wallet. I can freeze the cards. I can get a new, matter of fact, I needed a new ID. We all got to switch over to the real ID here over the next year or two, right? Everybody's got to have a real ID. So I was going to have to get a new one anyway. So I wasn't really concerned about any of that stuff. And so my big bulky wallet had all the rest of my cards and everything else in it. So, I didn't lose everything. I just lost those 3 cards, right? But I was more concerned about my ID because I want to get home. And I don't want anything stopping me when it's time to go home from getting home. So this was on Saturday night that I discovered I don't know where my wallet is. So the next day, me and my uncle had already devised a plan. We're going to go to the airport. The airport literally was 2 minutes up the street from where we were staying. And we're going to go check and see what I have to have in order to be able to travel and get back home. The good thing is you only have to go through TSA once, right? It's not like you got to go through TSA every time you have a connecting flight. You just got to get through TSA once and then you Gucci. So I go to TSA the next day and I asked them, hey, look, man, I lost my wallet. And I know I'm not the first person in history to lose my wallet on vacation, but still need to travel. So the guy's like, you need to file a police report. And if you got any other forms of ID, bring that with you. So my wife had taken a picture of my passport, sent it to me. Again, don't laugh at me. I've got 2 old IDs that are voided in my wallet. Why do I have this? I just recently took out every single high school identification card that I had from my freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. I had those in my wallet as well. I just took that. So I was cleaning out my wallet last year and I just took those out. My wife's like, why the hell do you have your high school ID in your wallet? I don't know. I don't know. Stop asking. So I finally took it out. I'm a hoarder when it comes to like cards. I don't know what's wrong with me. So um I had 2 old IDs that it expired in 2019 in my wallet. They saved me though. They saved me. Okay. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is why I will never take anything out of my wallet. See, it's these types of situations that force me back into the mindset of you never know when you're gonna need XYZ, right? I shouldn't think that way, but it's situations like this that allow me to think irrationally. Like you'll never know when you'll need old IDs from 2019 that you shouldn't have anymore with your address from like 6, addresses ago. Anyway, so I got and we know, so the beauty of being on an island where your family grew up and having the island, the island is small, but it's not like small where everybody knows your name. Like it's Cheers, like everybody knows everybody, but it's great to be on an island where your family grew up there and everybody in that particular area knows one another. And so if they're still on the island, somebody knows somebody who does something that's going to benefit you in that particular situation. So we knew a cop. And so she took me down to the police station, helped me file my police report, and then she fast tracked it and expedited it so it was ready for me the next morning. And she picked it up for me, brought it to me, took me to the airport. And so needless to say, I had everything that I needed, and we had no issues. Got through customs, got through TSA, and they just had to do a little extra screening, nothing major, and I was on my way. But I was nervous because I didn't know how it was going to go, and the people at the desk, they scare you for no reason. I'm at the American Airlines desk, and she asked me for my ID, and I'm like, I don't have it. I lost it. But I told her I have my passport, and I showed her my cell phone, and she looked at the passport, put the information in, and she's like, well, I don't know if they're going to take this. I don't know if you're going to be able to fly. I'm like, just give me my damn phone. Okay. I already talked to the people yesterday. I'm fine. Give me my shit and so I can go. Right. Trying to scare me and shit. And then I want to apologize to Mr. Pink. If you're out there, if you watch this episode, I don't know if you will or not. But last week we were doing a command post episode the day before I left. And Mr. Pink asked me about some morbid shit out of nowhere. Hey, did you see the plane? What if a team plane crashes and everybody dies? And it wasn't that he asked me some crazy shit that had nothing to do with nothing, even though that's some really morbid shit that nobody wants to think about nor talk about. And he said he had just seen some plane in Brazil fall out of the sky, this, that, and the third. It had nothing to do with any of that. The reason that I was so annoyed with that is because, dude, I'm flying tomorrow. I have to fly on 2 separate planes there, and then I have to fly on 2 separate planes back. I don't want to talk about planes crashing and shit. Are you kidding me? Like, that shit got under my skin because I'm like, bro, I don't want to talk about planes crashing. I'm getting on a flight tomorrow, right? My family is on a flight as we speak right now. I don't want to talk about planes crashing. Are you kidding me? So if you're out there, Mr. Pink, no hard feelings. I don't want you to think that, I'm upset at you, or because he apologized like 3 or 4 different times. You don't have to apologize, bro. It's all good. Like, you asked the question, it's fine. I was just in a headspace that wasn't fit for a question like that when I'm about to take flight. in less than 8 hours. Like I was not in the headspace to be talking about planes crashing. That wasn't where I was at mentally. I'm back now. I'm safe. The only people who aren't back yet are my mom and dad. So we pray for their safe arrival back to Virginia. But um, like I'm good now. Like it's all good. You're fine. Not everything's all good. But had I died, I would have haunted you for the rest of my life. On a plane crash, I would have come back and I would have haunted you in ghost form. Just know that, Mr. Pink. If anything had happened to me on a flight, I was coming after your ass. Okay. just know that. So um man, it's funny. E says you got to invest in a fanny pack or a man purse. My wife usually travels with me. She carries I can't bring myself to have a fanny pack. I can't do it. But my wife always has a fanny pack. This is why I said you have to travel with me. You have to be there. This shit doesn't happen without you, right? If you're there, I don't lose my wallet. She's the one that carries my passport. When we go somewhere, she usually puts my wallet in her purse. Like that's the kind of stuff, my ID if we're going somewhere and they might card us. My wife is the one that carries all that stuff. And just put it in your purse. Just put this in your fanny pack. And she's really good about all that stuff. So, yeah. I, that was such a frustrate because I took every precautionary measure possible to not lose it, and then I just think I put it in my pocket and it fell out. To be honest with you, but anyway, I digress. So that was the trip. Not to get into particulars, we had a great time, spent time with family, got brought back some souvenirs, all that good stuff. It's always good to see family. Always good to be on the island, be on the rock, and I look forward to going back. Granny had a great time, and we really celebrated her the right way. And I hope she lives to see 100, and we are able to go back and celebrate her again. Right, 95. Whatever next milestone. I mean, hell, this was a random one. 89 was, but she just felt like she needed to have it, which made a lot of us uncomfortable. But she's not going anywhere, you know. So hopefully we get to 95. And I need to get back to see her before then, though. We can't wait till 6 years from now to see her again because she asked me when I was coming back to see her. And I feel bad because I told her, I'm coming to see you tomorrow. And my uncle was like, I'm not taking you over there. I'm like, come on, bro. I tried to do the old, you know, force somebody into doing some shit they don't want to do. He's very resolute. He's in the military. He's like, no, bro, I'm not taking you over there. So that didn't happen. But anyway, I digress. So great trip. I'm glad to be back. And I look forward to the day when I'm able to take my wife there so she can experience the island. She's never been before. So let's get into our gem dropping session for today. Shall we? Yeah, I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, let's talk Bears Hard Knocks episode 3. So, funny episode. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I think of the 3 episodes, this was the one I enjoyed the most thus far. Um, I laughed during this episode more than I did the previous 2, and I like to laugh more than I like to do anything else. I thought the first episode might have been the most informative. You learned a little bit about, the staff, and, Nick Saban was there and he dropped some gems on our melon. So I think that one was really informative, but this one was the most entertaining. So you start with Caleb Williams sitting in the office of head coach Matt Eberflus, and they're going over some plays from the preseason game against the Bills in which he played. And Caleb Williams said that one of his biggest takeaways was that practice is way harder than the games. And I'm like, that's how it's supposed to be, right? That's what his coach said. Theoretically, it's supposed to be that way. That's not true. Right? And I think he's getting this false sense of, oh yeah, the practices are hard compared to the game because you're not playing against anybody's ones. You understand what I'm saying here? Like you went out, you had success against the Bills. They didn't put their ones out on the field. You went out, you had success against Cincinnati. They didn't play against their ones. And even in that game against Cincinnati, they struggled, right? They had 3 punts, three and outs, I think, in the first quarter of that game. Like they were struggling. And I would assume that Cincinnati started to, cycle some of their guys out of there, which is what allowed them to have 2 scoring drives, um, towards the end of the first half. But I don't buy that for 1 second that practice, like theoretically speaking, if you have a dominant team that is better than everybody else, then practices should be harder than the games. That's how it should be set up. If you feel like you have that kind of talent, you guys should be getting after each other. Your coach should be pushing you. And yes, practice should theoretically be harder than the game. And then when you get out there, I remember when we played basketball, I played JV basketball. I remember this like it's yesterday. Our coach used to run the shit out of us, Coach Floyd. And shout out to Coach Floyd, man. If you ever heard me go, son, be ready, that's from Coach Floyd, right? And he would line us up, and he had this lisp that he talked with. It was great, right? He'd be like, on the line, suicides, and then he would blow the whistle, and he would just walk away, and we couldn't stop running until he blew the whistle again. We'd be dying. Coach, come on, bro. You didn't have the energy to like beg him to stop, to blow the whistle, but you'd be looking at him like with your hands up like Jordan, like shaking your head like, come on, bro, we dying over here. And we would run so much that we would get to the game because we pressed. We were a pressing team, that we would run circles around teams. And by the time we got to the fourth quarter, they had nothing left in the tank. And we're looking like, bro, this is nothing. Come to one of our practices, right? So you want it to be that way, but that's not how it is at the NFL level. You can try to convince yourself that practice is harder than the games. Yeah, right. Wait till you start seeing these NFL defenses that are preparing for your ass. We'll see how much the practices are harder than the games then. So I found that to be a really funny line from Caleb Williams. So it feels that way now because you're not playing against anyone's A squad. You're playing against everybody's B- squad, but cool. Glad that it feels that way. Then we get to Austin Reed. Backup quarterback. I think he might be 4th string behind Caleb Williams, Tyson Bagent, and Brett Rippon. So Austin Reed is undrafted, I believe, and just trying to make a name for himself. And this show helps, right? So they've been going through the rookie show, right? And every week they're showing us 1 or 2 guys that perform. And so we've had the Canadian Eagle perform, and he was the most popular one. Caleb was trash, right? Didn't even know the words to the song he was performing. Like, what are we doing here, guy? At least pick a song that you know the words to. And because the players, if the song, if it's a good song and you get to the hook, the players are going to fill in the blanks for you and you're done. You just got to get to the hook. Caleb couldn't even do that with the song that he picked. So when Austin Reed gets up there, and first of all, like, I want to see somebody do something other than sing. I was waiting for somebody to do like a comedy skit where they're, mocking the coaches. Those are always the best to me. Like, if you really want to get the players on your side and laughing, just pick a coach that, it's usually the coach that coaches your position group because you're around him the most, and then make fun of them, right? And everybody's going to laugh at that, but they all decided to sing. So when he dropped the beat for the song he was singing, I was like, wait, is this man doing Keisha Cole? Love? No way. I said, I got to see this one. So I sat up in my chair. I'm like, let me see what Austin talking about. And Austin started singing. I said, okay, Austin, I see you. Right? So Austin got to the hook. I'm over here singing with him. And the players all singing with him. I was like, Austin Reed, you sly devil, you killed it, right? Players were going nuts. I'm like, and I kept hearing somebody, I don't know if that was Austin saying it or not, but he's like, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. He killed it. That was pretty dope, man. I was like, look at Austin Reed up here singing some Keisha Cole, man. Um, that was pretty dope. So enjoyed that thoroughly. Then you continue through the episode and they start to follow different players. So I think I kind of like how Hard Knocks is kind of taking a little bit of a turn where they don't just pick 2 or 3 guys that they're going to follow the entire time. They kind of spread it out amongst a bunch of the guys that are long shots to make the roster, and follow, like, for instance, Colin Johnson got some shine after the Hall of Fame game. They haven't really went back to Colin Johnson since. That was episode 1, if I'm not mistaken. The Canadian Eagle guy that got hurt. Obviously, he got hurt, so there's not much there to follow with him. But I saw him stretching the other day at practice. He looks like he might be back on the practice field, but they're not following him anymore, really. So they're moving around. Like Austin Reed is a guy that they've been around. They're with Tyson Bagent. He's on the roster, right, as the backup quarterback. But they're moving around. Velus Jones, Junior. They talked to him. They had the whole Ferret King thing going on with him, and so is pretty dope how they kind of spread it out. So now they had the punter. I don't know what his name is, but he's interesting. And I always feel like when you get a punter from across the pond, because they usually play sports where it involves them kicking a ball, they're usually really good at kicking the ball, right? So he went to Iowa and killed it in the Big Ten, got drafted in the 4th round. And you really don't talk about punters until you get one that is a game changer. The Seahawks have one, and I think he's an Aussie punter, if I'm not mistaken. Another one of these guys from a different country, at least. I don't know if he's Australian or not. But when you find these guys, they can change games for you. And this guy's kicking bombs. So they walked around, they tried to give him a nickname, and he's like, nah, I don't want nothing Australian, themed, none of that. So they followed him around a little bit. So he was pretty interesting. Then there's Tyson Bagent and his dad. Tyson Bagent's dad is a piece of work, man. He is hilarious. So he's going to end up, I think, being the star of the show when it's all said and done. Like, they're going to continue to follow him around for the next couple episodes. I think there's probably 2 episodes left. This episode, and then the next episode, last episode, the 5th and final one, will be the one where they cut down the roster. So I'd imagine that we'll see Tyson Bagent's dad for that next episode when they're playing against Kansas City on Thursday, because Caleb Williams and the first team offense has already been ruled out of that game. They're not playing in that game. So I would assume Bagent will get the start, and then he'll probably play a couple possessions or so, and then they'll let the other 2, Rippin and Austin Reed, kind of take over and play the remainder of the game. So they'll probably show Bagent's dad a little bit there. He's a hilarious guy. He's a character, and he sounds pretty cool. So the whole Velus Jones Ferret King story, Crash is the name of his ferret. He named him that after Crash Bandicoot. He told a story about buying the ferret, which was a funny story. Like, it kind of felt like it had shady vibes. They're in the back alley in LA somewhere, and he's like, bro, keep the car running. He was at USC at the time with Colts wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. And so he told the story about how he got the ferret. He had looked it up online, and they were selling the ferret. And, he's in this shady part of town and in a back alley. And he's like, bro, this don't seem right. Let's get out of here. And then the guy peeks his head out and he's got this little ferret, and it turned out to be legit. And so the legend of Crash was born. Um, he said I get a little emotional talking about Crash, and it was funny. It was funny to listen to him talk about this ferret, but that was pretty funny. Then I thought the most interesting part of the episode, however, that in the game itself, you always like to see the game being played, and what guys are saying during the course of the game. That's always pretty cool for me. But the whole situation with Matthew Judon. So Matt Ryan, let's go back a little bit. Matt Ryan showed up. I didn't realize Matt Ryan and the Bears GM Ryan Poles were former teammates. So he had Matt Ryan come in, kind of assess the quarterbacks, that sort of thing. So that was pretty cool. And he talked about Bajent, like, yo, I really like this dude. If he's got to come in for a couple weeks, I think you're in good hands. Like, this dude, he looks like he's gotten better from last year. And then, of course, he just goes out and strokes it against the Bengals and kills them, right? So kind of all flowed together. But they showed polls talking about the opportunity to get Matthew Judon. And the Bears have been one of the most aggressive teams in the league when it comes to trades over the last 2 seasons. If you recall, 2 years ago, they traded for Chase Claypool. Now, that one didn't work, but they didn't let that stop them from being aggressive the next year in trading for Montez Sweat, right? Then they traded for DJ Moore 2 years ago, right? When they traded for Chase Claypool, when they ultimately decided we're going to get Justin Fields' help. They traded for Chase Claypool during the season. After the season, they traded for DJ Moore. And so you could see they were starting to go and be aggressive. Then obviously the DJ Moore trade was, for the number 1 overall pick, all of that stuff. So it benefited them. And then they traded Justin Fields this offseason, right? Because they had the number 1 pick and they were going to take Caleb Williams. And they traded for Montez Sweat in season. Once again, second year in a row, they made an in-season trade. So we've seen the Bears be aggressive and go after it. They showed them trading back into the draft to select a guy that, if you watched me in my process, that I loved Austin Booker. I wanted Austin Booker to be a member of the Commanders so bad because I could see the talent, and they traded back into the draft to get him. So the Bears have not been shy to make deals. So here's another opportunity where the Bears look up and they're like, we're going for it. We're going after it. Yeah, Matthew Judon. If you're going to trade for Matthew Judon, you better feel like you have a chance to win a Super Bowl. He's 32 years old, right? You're not looking like the reason that the Bears probably didn't get the deal done. And I thought this was it. I told you, this is why I love the Giants Hard Knocks offseason more so than any other, because you get to see all of these things transpiring and why deals either do or don't happen, how guys end up somewhere as a free agent, what the thought process is. If we sign this guy, then we're out on this guy here. Can't afford this guy and this guy, right? Let's see if we can get this guy for this price. And then the price goes up. Whoa. That's out of our price range. Let's pivot and go to plan B. Well, plan B is already off the mark. Okay, let's go to plan C, right? Like, it's just fun to see the process and how they go about that, right? So Poles is, like, yeah, we'll give up a 3, but if we can't get him to agree on terms to a long-term deal, we're not doing it, because you can't give up a 3rd round pick and then the guy walks after the season. What if Matthew Judon, you trade, and this is what Judon is banking on. Like, I'm betting on myself at 32 years old that I'm going to go out here, I'm going to eat, and I'm going to eat good in Atlanta. I'm going to go out here and get 13 and a half sacks. Somebody's going to break me off next year. Even if it's a 2-year deal, I'm getting a 2-year, $41 million deal, right? Like something like that next year, right? I'm trying to hit it big. So the Bears were like, if we can't get him signed to a deal, then we got to avoid the trade. We can't trade a third round pick for a guy that may come here, play 1 year, and then leave and go elsewhere. So, Poles was mulling over that decision. And then while he's trying to decide what he wants to do, the Falcons swoop in and they're like, bro, we don't give a damn about a contract extension. We just want you this year. And then we'll let the chips fall where they may, see what happens, and we'll go from there. And Judon was like, I don't want an extension. I want to prove myself. You say that because he's coming off of a pec injury where he only played in 4 games last year. So the value right now for him is not high, which is why the Patriots didn't want to pay him. And the Falcons probably didn't want to pay him. And he's like, no, I'm cool with that because I want to go out and prove that I'm still a dominant player. And then somebody's going to break me off. Right. So if you can get to the quarterback, it doesn't matter how old you are. People pay a premium for guys that can get to the QB. So it doesn't matter if he's 33 next year. If he gets 13 and a half sacks this year, he's going to get paid next year, right? Von Miller's 900 years old, and after they won, the Rams won the Super Bowl, Von Miller got a 5-year, $160 million, whatever the crazy deal was from the Bills. Obviously, he's not going to see half of that money, but still, it was a lucrative deal for a guy that was plus 30 with 2 major knee injuries in his career, and then had an knee injury again in Buffalo, and really hasn't done anything for the Bills. You can get to the quarterback, they're going to pay you. So it was just funny to see him standing and and we've all been here. We've all been here, right? He's standing in his office, is Ryan Poles, talking to one of the other executives in the front office, trying to rationalize why he didn't make the deal, right? Because nobody wants to be wrong, right? You want somebody to validate your feelings, because he's standing there and he's second guessing himself. And he's like, man, maybe I should have did the deal, right? Falcons swooped in for that same third rounder that I was willing to give up. But he's like, no, because we just gotta have long-term flexibility. Like, I can't give up a pick for a guy that may not be here. Like, I got to think about the short term and the long term. And the guy's like, yep, that's right. And we did get Booker, for a 4th round pick in next year's draft for 4 years. So, I mean, like, we're good. And he's like, but unless he gets like 20 sacks next year, then I'll be kicking myself. Like, so you can tell he's like, yo, what if this dude kills it for Atlanta? We could have had him next to Montez Sweat, right? But it's just interesting to see how the dynamic works, right? I'm just fascinated by that. So that was pretty cool to see. Then something else that I thought was pretty cool was they're developing a new stadium for the Bears. I did not know this. And so that new stadium looks dope. And they were talking about, the boxes and the suites and things of that nature, getting the small granular details down. But that'll be interesting, seeing Soldier Field and or seeing the Chicago Bears and not playing in Soldier Field. That's all I've ever known as a football fan, the Bears in Soldier Field. That's like the equivalent of the Orioles not playing in Camden Yards, or the Yankees not playing in Yankee Stadium. Like, you're not supposed to shut down Soldier Field. I remember maybe a decade ago when the Bears had like Henry Burris at quarterback. Yeah, it was some lean years. They had to play at some random stadium because they were doing renovations to Soldier Field. I just never thought they would get rid of Soldier Field. Just never thought that would ever happen. It's one of the iconic fields in the NFL. It's like Lambeau. You don't get rid of Lambeau. You just make upgrades to it. Well, they're getting rid of Soldier Field. And I think this one's going to be called Bear Down Stadium, I think. That's at least what they made it seem like it would be called. Whatever the case may be, that's interesting. Soldier Field felt like one of the pillars of the NFL, but I guess I was wrong. So that was also something that was interesting to me in this episode. So anyway, I digress. It was a great episode. I enjoyed it thoroughly. And, talking about Matthew Judon is a great segue to social media maneuvers. I'm a midnight marauder. Y'all know what it is. If you're out there, you want your comment read, You know, there are two ways to get that done. One is to use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air if it is pertinent. The other is to use the super chat function, which will allow you to not only ensure that your comment is read, but also allow you to jump straight to the front of the line. So if you're out there, you want to ensure that your comment is read, super chat function is the way to ensure that that gets done. We will get to as many comments as time will allow us to get. There's no guarantee that we'll be able to do that. So that's why the super chats can become very important. So I want to start this conversation off before we get to the comment section, but talking about Matthew Judon real quick. And the trade, 3rd round pick to the Patriots in exchange for Matthew Judon, who's now an Atlanta Falcon. And I want to ask you guys, does this move the needle for you at all? What do you think about Judon as a player? I still think he's got good football left in him. I think he can help the Atlanta Falcons. If he's healthy, he's a problem. They didn't have they had Arnold, let's call him Arnold E. I always mess up his name, from Penn State, who has been getting better and better, getting after the quarterback. So they did have a guy, but they didn't have a fear-inducing pass rusher. Now they do in Matthew Judon. So I look at the Falcons, and they're going for it. I talked about this already. They're going for it, man. Signing Kirk Cousins, trading for Matthew Judon. You look at what the Falcons were. They play in a division that is not great. And there really hasn't been many upgrades made in that division. The Panthers still stink. The Saints aren't that much better than they were a season ago. And the Bucks pretty much stood on business and said, hey, we won the division last year and won a playoff game, almost won another one. We feel good about our situation. We're going to double down on Baker Mayfield, and we just going to stand pat. And that's what they basically did. They didn't really do anything to upgrade their roster. So it's the same division, essentially. The same division that they were in, despite having a terrible quarterback situation a year ago. So I look at the Falcons and I say, why not Atlanta? Right? We've talked about the NFC and how it's open, man. Right? It's open. There are no dominant teams in the NFC other than the San Francisco 49ers. And they've had a slew of issues this offseason. And I think a lot of that will, rectify itself before the season starts. Trent Williams will be back. Seems like Ayuk is getting closer and closer. It feels like Brandon Ayuk is more likely at this point to be a San Francisco 49er this upcoming season than playing anywhere else. And 2 weeks ago, we couldn't have said that. Hell, even a week ago, you wouldn't have said that. Felt like a trade was inevitable. Now it's starting to feel like he's going to be back in San Francisco. I didn't offer up a 00 yet. I don't. At least I don't think I did. Right. I said I was going to reserve that for if he got traded because I didn't think he was going to be traded. Right. I may have offered up a 00 already because I didn't. I said either he's going to get traded or he's going to get a long-term deal. Neither of which I saw happening. But when you look at the 49ers situation, if Ayuk's back, Trent Williams comes back, which I expect him to, they're going to be right back in the mix again, as long as they're healthy. Green Bay seems really interesting to me. I think Jordan Love has this just wealth of confidence now that he didn't have a season ago, that he kind of got towards the end when he started to play really good football and won that playoff game, almost won another. So they're a team to look out for. We know the Lions are good, right? But I'm more along the lines of, all right, do it again. The Eagles did it, and then look what happened to them the following year, right? Do it again. It's easy to do it once when you sneak up on, and not that the Lions snuck up on anybody, right? People were picking the Lions to do what they ultimately did, but you still got to go out and do it, and they did. Now do it again. That division's gotten much tougher. Green Bay's not a game. They're no longer, we got Jordan Love. We're young. We got young receiver. No, that shit's over with now. They're ready to win. Minnesota's taking a step back, but they're still going to compete like hell. And the Bears are much better. So I'm interested to see. And they were struggling with the Bears the way they were, put together last year. They were struggling with the Bears. We're the Lions. So there's no guarantees in this thing. And then the Cowboys, they feel like they've regressed a bit. We'll see. The Eagles are interesting, but I don't buy what the Eagles are selling just because I think there's some issues with their staff. I still think Nick Sirianni is a guy that, for whatever reason, I don't know the dynamics of what's going on there, but it seems like he's not in tune necessarily with Jalen Hurts. And there's some underlying issues there that if things don't go well, that thing could implode right before our very eyes, right? So you look around the NFC and there's nothing stopping the Falcons. And you could argue, if you are looking at their skill position players, maybe outside of Philadelphia with Barkley's addition at the running back position and then having A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and then still having Dallas Goedert, outside of that group there in Philadelphia, who's got a better skill position trio than the Atlanta Falcons of Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts? Who has a better group than that? I love the addition of Darnell Mooney to that group as well. I just think with Kirk Cousins coming in there, they're going to have an opportunity to do some really good things. And the defense was actually really good last year. I hate that they lost their defensive coordinator. He's now in Jacksonville. So you got to hope that they're able to kind of do some of the things they did a season ago defensively. But adding Matthew Judon to that unit is certainly not going to hurt them. That's for certain. I don't know, man. I think this takes their stock up a bit. I don't know if I still view them as this, force in the NFC that could be one to be reckoned with. But I do think they're the best team in their division. I think they have the best quarterback in that division. And I think that we'll see what Raheem Morris does. Keep in mind, they got a new coach, and Raheem Morris. And so I want to see what Raheem does. But I think the Falcons are a sneaky team in the NFC. I'll just say that. What says you? So let's get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say. Start the show off with my guy, Mr. Pink. So you were out there. I didn't know if you were out there or not, but I just had to let you know how I was feeling because I saw that you sent me a message on socials, and I'm like, you don't have to apologize. You said what you said. It was something that came to your mind. You didn't mean any malice by it. There was no ill intent behind the statement that you made. You just asked a question. And normally I would have been like, yo, that's a crazy question, but I wouldn't have been in my feelings. I was in my feelings because I'm like, bro, you didn't know. Had you not, like, I don't even know if you knew I was flying the next day because I can't assume that everybody knew. I said that, hey, I'm going to be out of the office. I'm going here, yada yada. I told everyone that on multiple occasions, but that didn't mean you knew, right? That didn't mean you watched those particular shows where I said that. So you couldn't have, I can't assume that you knew that and that you were thinking the way that I was thinking. I was just in my feelings because I'm like, bro, why would you? I'm flying tomorrow. Why would you even bring that up? Like, if anything had happened to me, just know your shit would have been haunted for the rest of your life. I was coming after your ass. I was gonna find you. Okay, I just hope you knew that. But if you don't know now, you know. If anything had happened to me, I was coming after your ass. Okay, you would have never been able to rest peacefully. I'm just letting you know that right now, Kevin. Been a member for 8 months. My guy Kevin writes, Eagles, Packers, early prediction. Their LBs are toast. That's gonna be a fun game. That Friday, that first Friday of the NFL season. That's gonna be a fun game over in Brazil. Brazil. Um, I don't know what I'm gonna do there yet. I mean, Jordan Love is really confident right now. I fell into this trap last year, though. Now, this is not the same. So let me put out this disclaimer. This is not the same. But I fell into the trap last year with the Steelers and Kenny Pickett. Oh, he looked so good in the preseason, did Kenny Pickett. Oh, look out for the Steelers. And week one, they go up against the San Francisco 49ers and get their asses reamed. Pause. And it just reinforced that, hey, don't allow the preseason to cloud your judgment. Okay. Understand that it is the preseason. Keep it in its proper context. And so Jordan Love going out for one possession, throwing two passes, including a 62-yard strike to Dontavius Wicks. Don't let it cloud my judgment, right? I like the Packers though a lot. That's going to be a good test for the Eagles. We're not sure what the Eagles are going to be this year, by the way. Like, we assume they're going to be good, and I think they're going to be good, but we don't know, right? That's going to be a fun game. Now, both of those teams were in the playoffs last year. You made it further in the playoffs than they did, right? So that's a good game between two teams that were playoff teams a season ago and have very high aspirations this season. Obviously, we'll get into the specifics as we get closer to that game, and I'll give you my prediction then. But that's going to be a fun one. And so that was a really good job by the NFL of pitting those two teams together for that game over in Brazil. Kevin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Kevin, thank you for being a member of the MOBB who writes, thoughts on Zach Tom? Never trust a man with two first names. You just said it, not me, right? Never, ever trust a man with two first names. Look, I thought he did a bang up job for y'all last year. Whenever he gets pressed into action, I just felt like he did a good job. So, one thing I've said about the Packers, and I've felt this way for a very long time, and I don't know if you guys have the same offensive line coach, because you get some of these dudes who are just like legends, like the Eagles with Jeff Stoutland. Once upon a time, the Patriots had a guy, I think it was Dante Scarnecchia. I think that was his name. You get these dudes that are just wizards, that are just the ultimate professionals when it comes to the offensive line. They tried to convince me Bill Callahan was that. When he came to Washington, I didn't feel that way, but maybe he didn't have enough autonomy over the offensive line and how they did things. But he did get Eric Flowers to play really well at guard, so I don't know. But sometimes you get these dudes who are just made to coach the offensive line. I don't know what the Packers have going on out there, but you seem to get really good production out of offensive linemen, guys from all types of rounds, undrafted. I just feel like you get really good results out of guys, and Zach Tom is another one of those dudes. So I wanted, the swing tackle, Nyman from you guys this offseason. I wanted to sign him as a swing tackle and potentially give him a chance to compete for the starting right tackle position. So, Yash Nyman. So, I just think y'all do a really good job with developing offensive linemen, and we're gonna see, right? I think Zach Tom's gonna be just fine, but you never know. You said it, not me, but you know the rules to the game. You know the rules to the game, right? Um, Ghost Rider says JD is the starting QB. Yes, he is. Bart Scott can't wait. And if you're a Commanders fan, you're gonna have to wait because his ass ain't playing in the preseason. Game number 3 against the Patriots. So we've seen the last of him in the preseason, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Um, John Wynn says, I don't even know who PJ Walker is until I saw him playing in Seattle last week versus the Titans. He's been in the league a little while. He was with Carolina last year. He was with the Browns. He was with the Carolina Panthers before that. He's spun the block a couple times. He was over in the USFL, I believe, prior to that. So he spun the block a couple of times. He's been in the league here for the last 3 years or so. So good for PJ continuing to stay relevant and getting a check. But Sam, I saw Sam 11 of 14, that dime of a throw for a touchdown pass. Y'all gonna put some respect on my guy name. They was trying to throw dirt on his name, man. They was trying to act like NHO was dead. Oh, yes, they were. They was trying to act like my man Sam can't ball. They was telling me Sam's struggling. He's looking like QB3 out there in Seattle. Oh, yeah? Oh, okay. Hey, I'm gonna just sip my drink and shut up. Soon you're gonna start to see some neon green and Seahawk blue NHO hats over here in a little bit. I might have those for sale here in a little while. John Wynn says, did you see the Panthers players fighting in their joint practice? I didn't see. I heard about it. I didn't see it. These joint practice fights really don't move me as much anymore. To me, that's a lack of discipline on the part of the head coach. Because as you saw in this Hard Knocks episode, Matt Eberflus told his players, hey, we're not doing that shit. Like, just telling you right now. Patriots coach, we talked about it. We laughed about it. We joked about it when Gerard Mayo told his players, hey, if you a starter, you playing a whole preseason game if you get in a fight. If you a fringe roster dude, you ain't playing at all. Get in the fight and try me if you want to, right? It's ways to put your team on notice and let them know I'm not going for that shit. We're not gonna get out here and show our ass. We're gonna act with class. We're not gonna show our ass, right? You get a young coach like Dave Canales, and I wonder what kind of personality he has. He might be one of those dudes that come off as a substitute teacher and you just feel like you can take advantage of him. Those are the vibes that he gives me. And that's how you end up with a situation where you got dudes fighting each other, right? Let alone another team. But look, a lot of emotions when you play football. And I also think with the Bears practice that we just watched on Hard Knocks, it was raining. Don't nobody want to fight in the rain. Like, I'm just trying to get the hell out of here at this point. I ain't trying to fight nobody. It was the same thing with the Jets and the Commanders. It's raining outside, bro. I'm not trying to fight nobody. I just want to get the hell out of the rain, to be honest with you. So, anyway, I digress. Yes, Miss Perry, I did sleep today. Absolutely, I did. I slept for about 4 hours. So that was a glorious nap that I had today for sure. Ghost Rider says, I hope JD does well against Tampa's defense. I'm gonna tell you this much: he better be prepared because I assure you, Todd Bowles is gonna heat his ass up. He's gonna blitz from all kinds of angles, and if he can't handle it, he will be exposed in week 1. So, because I don't think they have a legitimate pass rush where they can just rush 4 and get to it. He's going to come after him and dare our receivers to beat press, man-to-man coverage. And if we can't do it, we're going to be in for a long afternoon. So, hopefully, because the Bucs usually with Vita Vea, they're usually one of the best run defenses in football. So, you're not really going to be able to run the football on them for real. You're going to have to throw it. And if you can't throw the football, you're going to be in for a long day. So, we'll see what happens. All right. DJ23 says Dolphins release Salvon Ahmed. That could be the speed back we need. Yeah. I mean, and he's cool. I don't want a speed back just for the sake of having a speed back though. But he can fly, You in order to play for the Dolphins at the running back position, you have to run no less than a 4.4 flat. Anything over a 4.4 flat, you can't play for the Dolphins. So he's another one of them dudes that can just flat out fly. But I'm good with what we have at running back. I'm not like if we get a guy with speed, I would prefer to draft one, right? I mean, I would if they signed Salvon Ahmed tomorrow, I wouldn't be tripping about it. I'd be like, okay, this is I want some speed and I got some, but I'm not out here like, yo, they should go get him. Like, yo, we got to have him. They cut him, go get him. Like, nah, we good. Give me Michael Wiley instead. Give me Michael Wiley. I'm good. Kevin writes, I was hoping Judon went to the Bears. Poles has made some good moves, but others are just mind-boggling. I wonder how he does without Cunningham helping him. Maybe I'm crazy. I think he's aggressive. That's what I think. And I like GMs who have a philosophy, and his philosophy is we're going to go after it. And I don't mind giving up draft capital if I believe in the player and what he can provide for us. You know, you weigh the risks and the rewards of the situation, and then you go after it, right? And he's shown even after the failed, trades that haven't worked, it hasn't stopped him from continuing to be aggressive. Or the failed trade, rather. I don't think he's failed multiple times. He's continued to swing, and that's what you want. You don't want a guy that's gun shy. If you got a chance to go after it, go get it. You believe in Caleb Williams, you believe in this roster. He traded for Keenan Allen. He traded for Montez Sweat. He traded for Chase Claypool. He traded for DJ Moore. Like, he's been aggressive since he got there, and I can only commend him for that. And he was, and if the opportunity was right and Judon wanted to sign an extension now, he would have traded for Matthew Judon as well. They're going for it. They're going for it. And again, why not in the NFC that's wide open? Why not go for it? I don't know if Caleb Williams is ready to help you win a Super Bowl in his rookie season, but we're sure as hell going to try and find out. We're going to surround him with as much talent as we can. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it at all. Mr. Pink, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Mr. Pink, double up, thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I have Leo friends in St. Croix and St. Thomas. I trained with their SWAT guys back in 2013 for a month. It's crazy. We saw some Leos running around on the island training. We were wondering, what that was about, but yeah, we saw some Leos training down there when we were there. He said, spend a ton of time down there scuba diving and getting lit at the cabana on Water Island. Truly paradise. It is a beautiful place to be, and I love the island, man. I love the rock. And we went to St. John's. So I don't know if you guys know this or not, the number one beach in the world, Craig, resides in St. John's. It's called Trunk Bay. And we went there on Friday. And let me tell you, it is paradise. Like, literally. White sand. We saw a stingray in the water. You can see straight to the bottom. It's so clear and beautiful. And the water was perfectly temperatured. And everything was right about Trunk Bay. And I should have got a drink. I could have said, even the drinks were good. I went over to get a drink, and you know what? I probably would have found out that I lost my wallet then if I would have tried to buy a drink, because we went to no, I wouldn't have because we went Friday during the day, and then I got a drink that night, and I paid for it with my wallet. So I wouldn't have known. I definitely had it when I was there. So anyway, I digress. I should have tried a drink. We went to this place called Mountaintop. That was my first time. A number of us, and people that have been to the island a million times, haven't been to Mountaintop. It's this great place to get souvenirs, and it's called Mountaintop for a reason because you're literally at the top of the island, and you can see, and it's got this breathtaking view of the entire island, and you can see different, islands, Tatola, and all of that stuff from the top of that, from that view. And I took pictures and got video and all that stuff. And then it's a beautiful house up in the hill right across that you can see, and it's really nice. And you're like, man, that's a really nice house with just a ridiculous view. And they have what they call they've self-proclaimed their banana daiquiri world famous, right? So they said the world famous, come try our world famous banana daiquiris. So I was like, I gotta try this banana daiquiri. So we went to Mountaintop on Friday before we went to St. John's to go to Trunk Bay, and we had messed up the time. My uncle had got some bad intel on when they opened, so we really didn't have enough time to explore the store. So we did go in. We went in there. I had to go get a new straw hat. My straw hat was just done. I had that straw hat for over a decade, and we had some good times. And he's in the Straw Hat Hall of Fame, but he was done, man. Like, he was hanging on by a thread. So I had to get me a new straw hat because we were going to the beach that day, and I didn't bring my straw hat out of the room because it was just in such bad shape. I'm like, I'm gonna get me a new straw hat today. I knew we were going to Mountaintop before, so I was like, I gotta go in there. We don't have to all go in. I gotta go in because I'm getting me a hat. So we got to see the view, but I didn't try the banana daiquiri. So my uncle's like, well, I want to go in and I want to actually like go in and see what kind of deals they have, XYZ. So he's like, I'm coming back on Sunday. So I was like, bet. Well, I'll come back and I'm going to try this world famous banana daiquiri. Because in the islands, they love cruising, right? Cruising rum, right? Love cruising. Man. You go anywhere. I remember we went to the Dominican, I think, and then we went somewhere else, and there was an island. And it was sponsored by Cruising Rum. Like, they love their Cruising Rum. So she made me this banana daiquiri. I kid you not. She put a shot on the top of this daiquiri. She told me, she said, do not stir it. Take a sip of the shot, drink some of the daiquiri, and then take another sip, and do that until the shot at the top is all gone. So I did that, and I drank the shot and got to the bottom of that cup. And it's a big cup. The cup is like this big. I don't know if you can see it, like my hands, but it's like that big. So, yo, I kid you not. I was walking around with a buzz at 10 o'clock in the morning. I was like, this is excellent. I feel great. I text my mom and my dad and my sisters. I'm like, yo, this is what vacation is supposed to be like. I'm walking around this store feeling great, like nice. At 10, I looked at my watch, it was 10:01. I'm like, bro, this is what I'm talking about. I thought I started to get another one, but I was like, bro, you really haven't eaten as much as you should to be going back and getting another one of these. Do you really want to do that? Because you start your day off well, but this could take a really sharp turn in the wrong direction if you're not careful. So I was like, yeah, I probably should eat again before I have any more alcohol. So anyway, that was great. So I digress. Yes, it is truly paradise, man. And I'm glad you've been, and I can't wait to go back. So let me get back to the comment section. Um, let's see. We were here. Um, E says, "Did you ever discuss the Tua Brian Flores thing?" I didn't. I'm gonna save that for garbage time. How about that? I'm gonna save it for garbage time. Um, all right. Rocky D writes, "What was your take on the punter who filmed himself getting cut?" um, uh, look, I didn't feel any type of way about it. Clearly, the Commanders didn't think it was funny. They told him to take anything that he had down associated with the Commanders, which, again, I get it on their end. Like, we literally brought you in here because we wanted to give Tressway a day off, but they also wanted punts being fielded by right-footed kickers. Tressway is left-footed, so they want the guys in practice to see what it's like to field kicks, because most of the kickers in the league are right-footed. So you want them to be able to field kicks from both sides, from left-footed and right-footed kickers. So they brought this guy in. He had no shot at making the squad. He knew it. And so he filmed it because he knew what time it was. If you're gonna pay me, you're gonna bring me in, you're gonna pay me for all of this. Sure, I'm gonna do it. Um, but the team didn't find it funny. I thought it was cool, right? Um, and they told him, "Hey, yo, take all of that shit down. Don't have nothing tied to us up on your social media." And so I didn't see anything wrong with it, but again, I get why the team is like, nah, don't be having us on your social media, trying to profit off of us. Cause, if he wasn't affiliated, if that video wasn't, would you have watched it if he wasn't affiliated with the Commanders? No, you probably wouldn't have. So they're like, nah, don't make it seem like we just used you, but you did. But again, I get it. Um, John Wynn says, if you like cop shows, Chicago PD and SWAT shows are very good. 10 out of 10. I'm not a big like cop show drama guy. Those don't really move me. Um, my wife will watch anything almost, but me, not so much. I'm pretty picky with what I tune into. But um, I think my mom will watch anything. My mom, she's a piece of work. My mom will watch any goddamn thing. I think she actually watches Chicago PD and she said it was good, but I'm gonna pass on that. Big Money Sonny says, first of all, been a member for 35 months. Says, I'm ready for the season, but we got some issues though. Facts. We got some issues, but that ain't never stopped us before. That ain't never stopped us before from being ready for the season. So um, I'm ready to fire it up. See what these boys got this year, man. It's gonna be a fun year. I already told you I'm looking forward to it. So let's get to um our last segment of the show and garbage time. So somebody brought this up. My guy E brought this up. So let's talk about it. Because I really didn't have a topic for garbage time. We was just gonna end the show pretty much. So you gave me something to talk about because I did read on it today. I actually clicked on the article, read it, and I wanted to see what Tua was talking about. Um, so for those of you who are unaware of what E was referring to when he talked about Tua and Brian Flores, remember Brian Flores was Tua Tagovailoa's head coach in Miami when Tua was drafted. There was a rumor that surfaced when Flores was still there that he didn't care for Tua at all and that they wanted Deshaun Watson, right? The Dolphins were one of the teams that wanted Deshaun Watson. Flores wanted Deshaun Watson. And so obviously the development of Tua wasn't great his first season. If you remember, Ryan Fitzpatrick started the first 6 games of that rookie season in 2020, and they were 3-3. They had started off rough, and then they had gotten hot, and they benched Fitzpatrick in favor of Tua. And then Tua was off and running, but it wasn't pretty. And obviously, the next year he had the concussions and things of that nature. And Flores was not a big Tua Tagovailoa fan. They kind of got caught up in the whole Deshaun Watson thing. Flores was adamant that for lack of a better term, Tua wasn't good enough to get it done at the quarterback position. And that was the reason. Remember, we couldn't figure out why the Dolphins fired Brian Flores. It came out rather quickly after he was fired that there was a disagreement as to how to handle Tua Tagovailoa. Like the organization said, we spent a top 10 pick on Tua Tagovailoa. We want to develop him. We think he can be our franchise quarterback. And Brian Flores is like, this dude is trash. I need Deshaun Watson. And so that's where they kind of disagreed, and then ultimately they parted ways. And then there was the wrongful termination suit by Flores, and it spawned this whole conversation about, black coaches in the NFL or minorities, and do you get a fair shake? And we talked about all that because we didn't know all the particulars of the situation. So obviously, a few years passed. Tua was thriving in Miami. Flores, I thought, was going to be blackballed. Thank God for Mike Tomlin, who gave the man a job in Pittsburgh, and gave him an opportunity to resurrect his career. Then he ended up polying that opportunity. I think he was like the linebackers coach or something. Mike Tomlin says, just come over here. Time will pass, and you just got to stay in the league though, bro. If we let you get out of here, they're gonna blackball you. You'll never work in this league again. So thank God for Mike Tomlin, gave him a job, and that allowed him to resurrect his career. And he ended up getting the defensive coordinator job in Minnesota. So Flores is in Minnesota minding his business, and Tua unloads on him on the Dan Le Batard show here recently. So there was a clip that came out with Tua talking about Flores, and he called him a terrible person. And he talked about how Flores would mentally destroy him day after day, tell him he wasn't a good quarterback, he doesn't belong in the league, he can't do it at this level. And these were things that Tua would hear from him every single day. And Tua was like, after a while, if someone in a position of power is saying these things to you every day, you start to believe it. I talk about confidence all the time and how it's something that can be fleeting if you're not a, inherently confident person. If you're fickle, your confidence is very whimsical, and it sways with the wind, right? You got to be very resolute in how you feel about yourself and your abilities, or else if somebody comes around and tells you you can't do it, you'll start to believe it, especially if they do it all the time. And so Tua was talking about the night and day difference between Flores and McDonald, right? His Mike McDaniel, excuse me, his current head coach in Miami, Mike McDaniel. And he's like, McDaniel came in and told me the direct opposite of what Flores told me, who said, I can't play in this league. I'm not built for this league. I can't do it. McDaniel came in and said, bro, you're built for this system. You're the perfect guy to run my system. You belong. You're great. And you're going to be able to get it done at a high level. And he's like, it's not even close. So after Tua, eviscerated him essentially by calling him a terrible person and talked about how bad of a coach he was, Flores just happened to be stepping up to the mic the other day. I think it was yesterday. And he was a little bit emotional. He didn't cry or anything like that, but you could tell he was affected by Tua's words. And he said he's grown since that whole, and after he was fired and I listened to Flores talk, I realized he was suffering from like angry black man syndrome. Like, and I hate to say stuff like that because there's a stigma that's attached to black men a lot of times. But Flores, it fit. Like he was walking around angry and he felt like he was owed something. And, you could tell like he came up in that New England Patriots system and it rubbed off on him, and he was somewhat arrogant, and he felt like, and somewhat entitled, so to speak, and angry at the same time. Like, it didn't work, right? He was like, Bill Belichick could do that because it was Bill Belichick and he had won. You like Matt Patricia had the same issues in Detroit. Like you can't demean people and tell them that they're not this and they're not that and just do it my way. You haven't done anything. You haven't won anything. So you can't tell me just do this and it'll work. Anyway, he said he's grown a lot. And two of the players, the Viking players, um, defensive tackle Harrison, man, he was in Buffalo. He went to Stanford. Harrison something. And Harrison something, and I think it was a safety. They came to his defense at his press conference, and they talked about, you know, how good of a man he is, and how good of a coach he's been. They weren't sure when he first got there. They had heard stories about him, and they weren't sure, you know, what he was going to be for them. But he said, um, he came in, and the first thing that he did was he had a meeting with all the defensive players at his house, like a almost like a dinner type of atmosphere where they got to know each other, and they broke down any walls or preconceived notions that they might have had of him. And they said from that point forward, they really had a close knit relationship in Minnesota. And Flores says, "I'm changing, right? I'm trying to be a better version of myself. I was not the best guy and he admitted I wasn't the best guy in Miami, right? Yeah, I was in a different headspace, and you know, I probably said some things there that, you know, weren't right. And he said, I wish Tua nothing but the best. He's like, if we ever get an opportunity and he's free and he's willing, um, I would love to sit down and hash everything out with him because, you know, I do want this to be water under the bridge. I do want to, you know, kind of reconciliate with Tua because, you know, I did say some things to him, and he didn't say what he said, but he acknowledged that he wasn't very nice to Tua. That's for damn sure. Tua didn't make that shit up. So he's like, but I'm changing. Like I'm growing. He's like, I'm all about growth. I'm all about, you know, making the necessary changes to become better. And I've taken on that process here in Minnesota. And he's like, his head coach, Kevin O'Connell, has had a big impact on him. Um, in the way that he has kind of revamped his mindset as to how to approach players and, you know, kind of getting back to why he got into coaching in the first place. He said, the reason I got into coaching is to help players. And he got this line from Kevin O'Connell, be the best versions of themselves. And he said, you know, I kind of got sidetracked from that when I was in Miami, and I'm getting back to where I need to be. And I'm pretty grounded now. So you could hear the growth, and he, you know, he got a little emotional and choked up a couple of times because, you know, he wasn't a nice guy in Miami. And, you know, it hurts to hear somebody say those things and and them being true, right? That's the thing. If it's not true, then it's not going to affect you as much. You might be pissed off that somebody's out here spreading, you know, lies about you. But when it's true, what are you to do? You can only do the thing that he did, which is own up to it and say, hey, um, uh, you know, I made mistakes. I'm human. I'm getting better. I'm growing. If he can at some point. So that's that situation. It was really interesting because I saw the headline. You know, Tua's a pretty mild mannered guy. You don't expect Tua to be out here slinging mud at somebody. So when I heard that Tua took a shot at Brian Flores, I was like, what? Wait a minute. Tua? Tonga Valoa? So I was like, I got to see this. And then I read it. I was like, damn, Flores said that and that and that. He's like, yeah, he was a terrible person. Oh, huh. And, you know, when I think about Flores, it made me think about Eric Bieniemy. And these like they say all kinfolk, all folk ain't kinfolk, right? And we go to bat. When you're black, you go to bat for other black people. You try to at least, but not everybody you need to go to bat for. And we got so bent out of shape when Eric Bieniemy did. Eric Bieniemy is not supposed to be a head coach in the NFL. There's a reason he got passed over 18 times. Like you see, like it took him to come to Washington and to see him in his ways and how he, how he addressed the players and how he interacted with them, how he's cussing at Terry McLaurin, get your effing ass back in the huddle, and Terry's taking up for a teammate and he's chastising. Like when you see those kinds of situations unfold and you see the way he conducts business and how he's not taking input from the players and he's doing his own thing, you realize quickly, no, you're not supposed to be a head coach. There's a reason you had all these interviews and you never got a job. And now you see why Brian Flores was fired. And here you are advocating for this man. And this is why I said in the moment, I don't know the story. I don't know the whole story, but it reeks. Now you know more of the story. And Brian Flores wasn't a good dude. Good dude. General, and you're a good coach, they're gonna find you eventually. Like Raheem Morris. Took him a while to get another opportunity. He was young and he wasn't ready when he got his opportunity in Tampa Bay. It didn't go well, but he learned a lot from that experience. He picked himself up. He dusted himself off. He got back into the coaching ranks. He's been all over the map. He's been with some good people. He's learned from them, and now he's ready to go after it again, and he's gotten another shot, and we're going to see what he does with it, right? So anyway, that's the Brian Flores and Tua situation. Pretty interesting stuff, to say the least. Anyway, I digress. That is going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this 441st installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow. We're going to be back on the Louie T Network podcast again tomorrow. We'll be back in our normal afternoon time slot. We'll be looking at preseason week number 2 and, the stark contrast between preseason week 1 and 2. I told you that was going to happen, right? That we saw so many teams play their starters. I think there were 17 teams that played starters in week 1 of the preseason, starting quarterbacks. Only, I think 4 or I think it was 4 or 7. I got to look at the number again. It was a lot less. Okay. In week 2. So week 2 was pretty much but we do still have some quarterback situations to talk about that have yet to be decided. The Patriots haven't decided what they're going to do at quarterback yet. The Broncos haven't decided what they're going to do at quarterback yet. I think the Raiders have already made their decision already. I think Antonio Pierce made his decision already. So we'll talk about all of that tomorrow, and then we'll preview preseason week number 3 as well tomorrow on the show. So lots to get to tomorrow. We'll run it back again for episode 442. In any event, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Louie T Network podcast. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time. Until then, you guys take care. God bless. Good night.